show y'all this book. So, here we go. I had to literally glue this together. It looked nasty, but it's literally hot glue. I had to hot glue the book back together because I really read the book. Okay? Literally, I read this book. So, one of my favorite books, this is Thomas Troward. Thomas Troward is a mental scientist. This guy wrote this book 100 years ago. It is more relevant today than anything as it relates to the Bible and as it relates to mental science. Mental science is the science of spirit's effect on the mind and the mind's effect on physical matter. That is what it is. And I'm going to just tell you this. This right here, if you read the Bible and you said something's missing from the Bible, I'm not able to make the Bible practical. The way that the pastors teach the Bible is oppressive. This is the book for you. If you've been in church and you know church is a scam, but the Bible's true, this is the book for you. If you look at the way that they do church and you say, I don't agree with that, I want something more solid, more grounded in reality, this is the book for you. Because it breaks down exactly how it works. What you're looking for really is mental models for the world. All of us have a desire to connect with our deeper spirituality, and the churches have done a horrible job doing that. Times have changed. This is the evolution of Christianity. It's mental science. I'm bold. That's a bold statement. The evolution of Christianity is mental science. Christianity will die and is dying as it's taught today. But by no means is the Christian faith done. It's not. It's only done in the form that it's done right now. It's only done in the form that it's done. It's only over as it relates. Yeah, exactly. Now, I don't know. I think all the Abrahamic religions are changing and shifting right now. That is Judaism. That's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I absolutely believe that that's changing. And the reason I notice it's changing is because we live in an era that's just more spiritually awakened, spiritually aware. Oh, you gonna get it back? I've been posting these. I've actually been posting these. So I'm gonna be highlighting some stuff, and I'm gonna be running through it and just breaking down what Thomas Troward is saying in this. And I hope that this encourages you to buy his book. I don't get a dime for telling you to buy his books. Thomas Troward is the best mental scientist, the best person to listen to on the mind ever. And he wrote this book 100 years ago. I wish he was still alive. But he is alive through his books. So let's read it. The Bible is the book of emancipation of man. The Bible is the book of the emancipation of man. I'm getting my computer ready. Sorry, y'all. Bear with me. Actually, this is one of those. We ain't even gonna go there today. I just saw it over there. Okay. I'm gonna look up some of these definitions as we go along too, so that we can get better context. So we can get some better context to what these books are actually saying. Okay. But he says, the Bible is a book of the emancipation of man. The emancipation of man means his deliverance from sorrow and sickness, from poverty and struggle, uncertainty, from ignorance and limitation, and finally from death itself. Now, he said this may appear to be what the euphemistic colloquialism of the day would call a tall order, just basically meaning this sounds like it's out there. It sounds like you can't do this. This is a far-fetched claim, but nevertheless, it's impossible to read the Bible with the mind unwarped by antecedent conceptions derived from the traditional interpretation without seeing that this is exactly what it promises, and that it professes to contain a secret whereby this happy condition and perfect liberty may be attained. Jesus says that if a man keeps his saying, he shall never see death. This is what is said. Now, this is what's challenging about today's age. What's challenging about today's age is people do not believe the Bible no more because of the pastors that teach the Bible. So anything that the Bible says that sounds a little bit out there, people don't believe it, which they shouldn't believe it. But what they shouldn't do is totally dismiss the idea that we can overcome death, because even quantum mechanics in the just basic biology, which says our cells regenerate and create new ones every few days, say that we should not have to die. It actually shouldn't have to happen, or we should live significantly longer than we do now. But the reason we die is because of reasons that are unknown. Why do we die? Okay, Jesus says that if a man keeps his sayings, he shall never see death. Watch this. In the book of Job, we are told that if a man has with him a messenger, an interpreter, he shall be delivered from going down into the pit and shall return to the days of his youth. The Psalms speak of our renewing our youth. And yet again, we're told by Job that acquainting ourselves with God, we shall be at peace. We shall lay up gold as dust and have plenty of silver. We shall decree a thing and it shall be established unto us. Okay, so he's saying all of these claims. Now, what I propose is that we shall reread the Bible on the supposition that Jesus and these other speakers really meant what they said. He's proposing a new way of reading this book. He's saying, I propose that we read it like these people actually meant what they said. What if we can? What if we could? Thank you, baby. Oh, I love you. This is Bible Mystery, Bible Meaning. Leisha gonna get on in a second for y'all. Damn, I wish I could do it now. So if somebody could type Bible Mystery, Bible Meaning. All right, let's keep reading. So it says, of course, from the standpoint of the traditional interpretation, this is a startling proposition. So he's admitting the fact that this sounds totally far-fetched to claim that these things can happen. The traditional explanation assumes that it is impossible for these things to be literally true, and therefore it seeks some other meaning in the words, so it gives them a spiritual, and it put spiritual in quotes, interpretation. But in the same manner, we may spiritualize away an act of parliament. I want to look up act of parliament. Thank you for that. I appreciate you writing that, because we want everybody to know what this book is. So, look, I got to actually look this up. Act of Parliament. What is Parliament? What's an act of Parliament? Act of Parliament. So, Act of Parliament is, it's a written law that has been approved by the lords or the powers. So it's saying we would spiritualize away something that's been ordained for us to have. What if we can have spirit? What if we can have immortality? What if we can have freedom from death and poverty and struggle? This is suggesting that we can, and it's explaining how. And it hardly seems the best way of getting at the meaning of the book to follow the example of the preacher who commences his discourse with the words, "Beloved brethren, the text does not mean what it saith." So why would we start the course with that, saying that the text doesn't mean what it says? Let us, however, start with the supposition that these texts do mean what they say and try to interpret the Bible on these lines. So you see the approach that he's taking. He's approaching this as, all right, let's just read the book over again. And while we read it, let's act as if they actually mean what they say when they had these claims. Now, he kind of contradicts himself in when he starts to make analogies later on. But The point stands. The principle of what he's saying is, look, these claims are real. The way that they explain the claims may be interesting and different, but the claims that we are real, and he's going to break down how that is. Okay, so we may spiritualize a way of act of parliament. Beloved brethren, the text don't mean what it says. Okay, it will at least give the attraction of novelty, and I think if the reader gives his careful attention to the following pages, he will see that this method carries with it the conviction of reason. All right, now let's read. If a thing is true at all, there is a way in which it is true. My brother, what's your name? I forgot your name. We've been messaging back and forth. We've been talking about truth a lot, and I think this is going to shed some light. If a thing is true, there is a way in which it is true. And when the way is seen, we can find it to be perfectly reasonable. Before we understood the way appeared unreasonable. Check this out. This is powerful. If a thing is true at all, there is a way it's true. If it is true, there's a way it's true. And when the way is seen, we find that to be perfectly reasonable, which before we understood what the way appeared unreasonable. So if we say something like immortality is real, then there's a way in which immortality could be real. And once we see that, what seems far-fetched is not far-fetched anymore. It's also saying, okay, freedom from poverty is possible for you. Deliverance from sickness and poverty and struggle is possible for you. Okay, if that's true, there's a way that's true. There's a specific way that's true. And when we see that way, it'll be perfectly reasonable, where before it appeared unreasonable. I'm paraphrasing and interpreting it. Okay, we all go by railroad. Now, this is railroad before planes were a thing. So let's just replace railroad with planes. Okay, we all go by railroad or planes now. Yet they were esteemed, level-headed, practical men in their day who proposed to confine George Stephenson, the guy who made the train, as a lunatic for saying it was possible to travel at 30 miles an hour. I think that sounds crazy, right? Sounds insane. Somebody really questioned somebody's sanity for saying we could go 30 miles an hour. That was the limitation of their ability to think. First thing to notice is that there's a common element running through the text. I'll quote it. They all contain the idea of acquiring certain information, and they promised results are contingent on our getting this information. So listen, the first thing is to notice is that there is a common element running through the text I've quoted. They all contain the idea of acquiring certain information. This is so important, I believe. So you being able to do these things, free yourself from poverty, healing yourself, etc., is contingent on getting certain information. And the results are contingent on our getting this information. If we don't have the information, we cannot apply the information. That's what he's saying here. Yes, it's contingent on getting this information. Oh, yeah. And using it. Thank you. And using the information. So if we read the Bible or read a mental science text, or read any text that claims that we can do beyond what we've done already. If we read this and we don't get the information in the first place, and don't use exactly, Erica, and we don't use it, then we don't get the results. This is what I think is missing today. Everybody has theories, but they haven't applied it. So there we go. Jesus says it depends on our keeping his sayings. That is, receiving the information which he had to give and acting upon it. Jesus says it depends on our keeping his sayings. Which is receiving the information he had to give and acting on it. How many times have we heard, keep the faith and don't doubt? And then we go out and doubt. How many times have we done that? We've done that over and over and over again. Job says that it depends on rightly interpreting a certain message. And again, that it depends on our making ourselves acquainted with something. You have to get acquainted with the ideas that all is mind. You have to get acquainted with the idea first before you can prove or disprove it. You have to get acquainted with it. It depends. I love him. I love this book. Acquainted. We have to get acquainted with the information. So when we reject an idea before we've gotten acquainted with it, we've learned it, we've figured out what it actually means, we've tried it, we've experienced it in our lives, we've really dug into it and done it, then we will not get the results because we have to get acquainted with a completely new way of thinking. When you read the Bible as a storybook rather than a mental science book, you're missing a big piece because you have to get acquainted with reading the book in a totally different way. That makes sense? You have to get acquainted. Let me move this back a little bit. You got to get acquainted with reading the Bible in a totally different way than what you used to reading it. Is that making sense? Okay. And the context of the passage from the Psalms makes it clear that deliverance from... This is Bible mystery, Bible meaning. Bible mystery, Bible meaning. Okay? It says, and the context of the passage in the Psalms makes it clear that deliverance from death and renewal of youth, their promised, are to be attained through the ways which the Lord made known unto Moses, not by believing in Jesus Christ. Listen to this. Death and the renewal of youth, their promised, are to be attained through the ways which the Lord made known unto Moses. Not by believing in Moses, but they're attained through the ways that were taught to Moses. When a pastor tells you that you need to believe in the persons or the person that is Jesus, rather than the ways that were made known to the person, think about it. What other way to get a chocolate cake than to do what the person did to make the chocolate cake? It's through the ways which was made, the Lord made known unto Moses. Now, in all these passages, we find that these wonderful results come from the attainment of certain knowledge. Listen to this again. In all these passages, in all the passages of the Bible, it does not say you can just believe. They come from the attainment of certain knowledge. You actually have to get the knowledge. This is what people don't get. The spiritual community is challenged by this. The spiritual community is challenged by this. It says, in all these passages, we find that these wonderful results come from the attainment of certain knowledge. It is not going to come upon you because you just believe something. It doesn't work that way. It will not come upon you because you believe. No, it won't. It will come upon you by the attainment of certain knowledge. You have to attain to the knowing and the practicing and the being. And the Bible therefore appeals to reason, not the unreasonable, not just belief. The Bible appeals to your reasoning skills. See, this is totally different from the way that you learned the Bible in the past. People teach you in the Bible, when they do teach the Bible, they say, no, don't go lean on your own understanding. They don't even understand that passage. They saying don't lean on your current understanding of things. You have to lean into the reasoning factor that helps you to develop a new way of seeing how things actually work. The Bible appeals to your reasoning, your reason, not your feelings, but it appeals to your reason. So when somebody tries to make you overly emotional by telling you the death story of Jesus and telling you that you will go to a place that will burn forever, you'll burn forever, is that appealing to your reasoning or is that appealing to your emotions? We know what it's appealing to, because if you want to control the people, then appeal to their emotions. Hold on, y'all. I'm about to change this screen. Is this helping y'all? This is why I like the Bible. This is why I like Thomas Trower specifically. This is why I like him. This is why I like him. I need y'all to see my face when we talk about this. Okay. Okay. So when you read this, this is called Bible Mystery and Bible Meaning by Thomas Trower. So I want y'all to hear this. He says, the Bible therefore appeals to your reasoning. From this point of view, we may speak of the science of the Bible. Totally different from my emotional interpretation of the Bible. He said, from this point of view, we can speak of the science of the Bible. The science of the Bible is not the emotional story of the Bible. It is the science. So he's going to focus his attention on the ways that were revealed. The ways that were revealed. If you want to learn about Thomas Trower, this is the place for you, to be honest. He's about to explain and expand on the ways that were revealed to the people in the Bible. Not the people themselves. Because what the people applied is the power. Okay, I just pinned it. Hopefully it just stays. I don't know how to permanently pin, but that's it right there. You're welcome. All right, so let's keep going. And as we advance in our study, we shall find that this is not a misuse of terms. For the Bible, eminently scientific, only its science is not primarily physical, but mental. Listen to this. As we advance in our study, we'll find that this is not a misuse of terms. The science of the Bible is not a misuse of the terms. But it speaks to the science. It says it speaks to, it's scientific. Only this science is not physical, but mental. He's telling us Okay, if you read the Bible correctly in a certain way, what you'll notice is that the Bible is not a physical story book. It's not the science of the physical. It's the science of the mental. It's the science of the mental. Now, let's next paragraph. The Bible contemplates man as composed of spirit, soul, and body. Okay? And that's in Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians verse 23. Actually, I want to look at some of these. Okay? I'm going to read it. So, look up 1 Thessalonians 23. Okay? So 1 Thessalonians 23 says, "And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly, and I pray God your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of the Lord." Okay, so he's referring to that. The Bible contemplates man as composed of spirit, soul, and body. That's in Thessalonians 23. Spirit, soul, and body. Now, or in other words, as combining into a single unity a threefold nature: spiritual, psychic, and corporeal. Okay, spiritual, psychic, and corporeal. Verse 23, Thessalonians 5 and 23. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Okay, and the knowledge which it proposes to give us is the knowledge of the true relation between these three factors. So he's saying that the science of the Bible is trying to give us the science of the relationship between our physical body, our mental body, and our spiritual body. He's trying to show us the science of the mix of those three. That's what the Bible is attempting to do. It's attempting to tell you the science of the soul, not the science of the physical world. It's trying to show you the science of the soul. Now, in today's age, especially in the West, we do not acknowledge currently, but we will once our society advances enough spiritually and cognitively. But we don't even acknowledge the soul as a spirit or as a science. It's still a theory that the soul is a thing. Okay.
What's the difference between spirit and soul?
It's almost no difference. It's almost no difference. Spirit is the undifferentiated life principle, and your soul is the undifferentiated life principle as you. They're both the same. Okay? They're both the same, ultimately. Okay, so threefold nature: spiritual, psychic, and corporeal. And knowledge which it proposes to give us is the knowledge of the true relation between these three factors. The Bible also contemplates the totality of all being, manifested and unmanifested. So what science doesn't do is science doesn't contemplate the totality of things. It only contemplates what has manifested. Is this making sense? The Bible only, or the sciences only observe what has already physically manifested. Is this making sense? Whereas the science of mind contemplates everything before it manifests and after it manifests. That's called involution and evolution. Both. It studies both. It doesn't just study the physical manifest. Okay? So, as terms God, man, and the universe. And it occupies itself with telling us of the interaction, both positive and negative, which goes on between these three. Furthermore, it bases this interaction upon two great psychological laws, namely that of the creative power of thought and that of the amenability of thought to control by suggestion. So I want you to hear this. It bases the interpretation of good and bad upon two factors, two laws. That of the creative power of thought, the law of mind, all is mind, It says that thought is power. That's the first law. We understand that thoughts create things, and thoughts themselves are things. So we know that. That's first. And that of amenability of thought to control by suggestion, autosuggestion, your ability to change the thoughts that are accepted by the universe by repetition and suggestion. You can suggest to yourself a thought, and that thought will become powerful. Once that thought becomes manifest and powerful, that thought will manifest circumstances in your life. So the whole game is based on two laws. The law that thought is powerful, and the law that your mind is susceptible to suggestion. That's the two things. Okay. And it affirms that this creative power is innately inherent in man's thought, as in the divine thought. It's saying that these powers to think and to suggest are both in God and also in man. It's in you. You have the power to think powerful thoughts that create circumstances and suggest to yourself what's true, which will change the thoughts you think and create new circumstances. Okay? But it also shows how through ignorance, meaning, what's the definition of ignorance? Somebody tell me the definition of ignorance. Let's take a guess. I'm going to look it up. Simple, too. It says, also, through ignorance of these truths, we unknowingly misuse our creative power. Ignorance means lack of knowledge. So let's reframe this. There we go. Lack of knowledge. So, but also, let's read this. But it also shows how through lack of knowledge of these truths, we unknowingly misuse our creative power. Or through lack of awareness or understanding of these truths, we unknowingly misuse our creative power. People are misusing their power and then blaming other people for their circumstances. They saying, I have anxiety because of my mom, because of my dad, because of the traumas that happened in my past, because of the past itself. This is a mistake. Those things happened, but they are not the reason that you are how you are today. How you are today is because of the thoughts you decided to think and continue to think based on those events. The thoughts, the suggestions you gave yourself about the world and life based on that past. Hopefully this hit you. Now, you can also go back and suggest different things about what happened to you. That would change your current thoughts, and those current thoughts will create new things. This is the power that we're talking about. And this is what the Bible is suggesting. He's saying that the Bible is telling us how to do this. So let's keep reading. It also shows, the Bible also shows how through ignorance of these truths, we unknowingly misuse our creative power and so produce the evils we deplore. And it also realizes the extreme danger of recognizing our power before we've attained moral qualities which will fit us to use it in accordance with the principles which keep the great totality of things in harmony. And avoid this danger. The Bible veils its ultimate meaning under symbols and allegories and parables. But these are so framed as to reveal this ultimate meaning to those who will take the trouble to contemplate the various statements with one another and who are sufficiently intelligent to draw the deductions which follow from thus putting two and two together. While those who cannot thus read between the lines are trained into requisite obedience to the universal law by means of suggestion suited to the present extent of their capacity. Meaning, they only can understand what they can understand. And thus are gradually prepared for their fuller recognition on the truth as they advance. This is a huge paragraph. So we're going to break this paragraph down. This is one of the biggest paragraphs in this. I just read this and I didn't even realize how potent this was. Okay? So check this out. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you. Let's read this. So the Bible is also showing, or mental science is also showing, which is what he suggested the Bible is. It's a science of the soul. What is it suggesting? It shows first the problems that come up in your life from being ignorant or not knowing how the laws work. If we don't know that our mind is creating our reality, we can't use our mind to create reality. So by default, what do? Since we don't know that our mind is creating reality, we give our attention to whatever's around us. We give our attention to the circumstances that suggest that we have nothing, or that we're a victim, or that we're broke, or that we're in poverty, or that we can't get out of a situation. All we do is give our attention to that. Because why? We simply don't know that if we gave our attention, that our mind is creating reality. If we truly knew that our mind was creating reality, we would give our mind to something else. We would probably give our mind to this. Where's that Bible? I don't have it on me. It's upstairs, actually. Oh, here go one. We would give our mind to extreme faith. We give our mind to the Bible and what it says about you, or the Bhagavad Gita, or the Tao Te Ching, or better thoughts. It don't even matter if it's the Bible or not. Simply better thoughts. We would do that if we knew our mind created reality and created our mental state and created either anxiety or happiness and created the relationships we get into or don't. Then we would think differently, but we don't. But we don't. This book right here, Bible Mystery, Bible Meaning. Or you may be asking another question. Let me just make sure I answer.
Extreme faith.
Huh?
Extreme faith.
Oh, yeah, that was just the Bible. That was another version of the Bible. So, it shows through ignorance of these truths, we unknowingly misuse our creative power. It's so funny. We have creative power, and we misuse our creative power. We have it already. It's built in. It's automatic. But we're creating things we don't want. Why? Because we don't know our power. We don't know who we are. That's why. Okay. And so produce evils. We produce evils by thinking them into existence. Not because they exist by themselves. No. We're producing evil because we're thinking them into existence out of ignorance. That's what he's saying. Now, it also realizes the danger of realizing the power of the mind before we have the morality to work in harmony with the universe. This is powerful. It also, let's listen, because this is what the elite class is doing, and people don't realize this. They think that, oh, no, nobody would do that. Look, there's an elite class who understands the power of the mind. But here's the problem. They have reached the understanding that their mind creates reality too. And guess what they're doing with it? They don't care about the harmony of the universe. They care about padding their pockets and making more money. They care about using you to continue their lifestyle. And it's working. You know why? Let's read again. Because of the ignorance. Our ignorance, meaning lack of knowledge of our creative power. Why are they manipulating us? Because of our own lack of knowledge of our own creative power. That's why they get to manipulate us, because we don't know our power. And our power is not, let's go out, stand on the street and protest for them to change. That's not our power. That's not power. Power is the way you think and what you decide to give attention to. My man is in the building. What's up, brother? Yes, and the elites will use you if you're ignorant. And we are ignorant. This is the reason I come on live. Because we are, by and large, ignorant of our power. When we go into the church, or we go into a temple, or we go into spirituality, here's the issue. We are still largely ignorant of our power. We don't understand the science of our soul and our mind. We don't understand it and a technical surgical degree. Whereas this elite class of people who want to destroy you and use you and keep you where you are, they do know it. Why do you think it's women against men now? Why do you think it's so much woman against man? We got to take control of our minds, Jordan. Yeah. Why do you think that's happening? Do you think that's just naturally came up? Or do you think that that's a psychological operation to keep families separated and warring against each other? What do you think? Obviously, there's an agenda. Why do they get to keep doing the agenda? Let me ask you this. If every single person in the world right now knew that your thought creates reality, would you let them do that? A kingdom divided can't stand. Thank you. Let's keep reading. Hey, pressure creates diamonds. I want you to remember that. Pressure creates diamonds. So if you're under pressure, you're turning into a diamond. Just remember that. Okay, so check this out. Let's keep reading this. By the way, this is my teacher, Thomas Troward. He wrote this 100 years ago. Literally, this is my teacher. This is where I learned everything from. This is where I learned everything from. Him, Neville Goddard, and one other teacher of mine. I learned everything from them. But this guy, he's like my grandpa. You got to message me so we can talk because I want to talk to you. Matter of fact, you can message me right now. I'm on Telegram. Neville is for real. But I'm going to tell you, Thomas Troward is the grandfather of them all. And I don't know why nobody talk about him. You know why probably? Because he didn't want popularity. He made a couple lectures, right? He only took on one pupil. One. He said he wasn't about that. He was the most humble dude. But he had the most powerful, clear mind I've ever seen in written form. I'm not even joking about that. If y'all hearing this right now, all of this is spawning off of Thomas Troward's consciousness. All right, so let's keep reading. So he say, the Bible also, the science of the soul also explains the dangers of coming into the knowledge of what you have. Look, this is what young boys do. It's a lot of young bucks out there who realize the power of their mind, but they just getting cars, clothes, jewelry, fast. And they know what they're doing. And they doing whatever they want. Because for whatever reason, maybe they did the work in the past lifetime. Maybe they just got genetic transfer, but they more awake than everybody else. And I remember I got used like that. One of my friends, he was just a business dude. He had so much more awareness than us. He had all of us do a nonprofit. We all of his friends, us. We came in and we just signed papers like, all right, you got a nonprofit. This is great. And we just signed the papers because he needed us to sign papers for him to have a board of directors. And he just had us sign it. That was it. We didn't do anything for the business. He just needed us. This dude knew what he was doing. He was using his mind to create what he wanted. And we just followed because we didn't know. I was a sheep. I didn't know. This is what is happening at large, at scale. And it wasn't bad. It was just the fact that he just made us do it. Oh, he was a cheetah lion for sure. Okay, so that's that. Next, seen in this light. By the way, let me read this last part. The Bible veils its ultimate meaning under symbols and allegories and parables. I think this is important. So why is the Bible veiled under symbols, allegories, and parables? There's a specific reason. It's because this is so powerful. Whoever wrote this book, they had the knowledge of human nature and the ego and evil. They understood evil. And this is what they knew. Evil people want the quick grab. And if we veil these secrets under symbols, parables, and allegories, only the people who are serious about attaining the knowledge will sit there and read between the lines and try to understand it for real. I'm going to read it in his words. The Bible veils its ultimate meaning under symbols and allegories, but these are so framed as to reveal its ultimate meaning to those who will take the trouble to compare the various statements with one another. I just got your message, big dog. To compare to various statements with one another, and who are sufficiently intelligent. You got to be sufficiently intelligent. There's qualifications to understanding this. And here's the deal. Some are not intelligent enough yet. It's not to say that they won't become intelligent enough, but you have to be intelligent enough to actually understand this. This is what's challenging, because there's a vast amount of people in the world who are not intelligent enough to understand this. And we got to accept that. That's hard to accept. Okay? So, the trouble to compare the various statements with one another, and who are sufficiently intelligent to draw the deductions which follow from thus putting two and two together. You have to read, you have to think, you have to understand, and connect the dots. Most people are not willing to do that. That's why they put it in symbols, because lazy people don't qualify. Truthfully. So every person who's sitting in the church just listening to somebody tell them what the word is instead of learning it themselves won't get it. Because you didn't do the work to put two and two together. You don't want to think. And that's the reason you have what you have, because you don't want to think. That's what it's saying. Okay? All right. While those who cannot thus read between the lines are trained into the requisite obedience to the universal law by means of suggestion, suited to what? Their present extent and capacity to understand. So you are limited only by your capacity to understand the laws. You are limited only by your capacity to understand the laws. Let me say it again. We are only limited by our capacity to understand the laws. As far as we do understand them, we can use it. But as much as we don't, we can't. So what's the incentive to seek to understand the laws of the universe? Because you can use them. That's the advantage. Not because I'll be saved. You'll be saved by your knowledge and application of the way. Remember this? He said, the renewal is to be attained through the ways which the Lord made known unto Moses, not Moses himself or Jesus himself. It's the ways. Once you understand the ways, then you can get the outcomes. But not until you understand the ways. I love this book. Can y'all see why I love this? Can y'all see why this is my teacher? This is really the game. This is really the game, y'all. So check this out. Universal laws by means of suggestion, suited to the present extent of their capacity, and are thus gradually prepared for fuller recognition of the truth as they advance. So you have to be where you are, and you prepare for greater truths as you walk down this path. But you got to walk down the path. That's the key. Next, seen in this light, the Bible is found not to be a mere collection of old world fables. If you see the Bible in the light of it's the science of the soul, showing what the advantages, what the mind is, what the advantages are, and the dangers of getting this knowledge before you have the correct morality to use it in harmony with the universe, is showing you how things work and how society is either built or destroyed. Seeing the Bible in this light is not a collection of old world fables or unintelligible dogmas, but a statement of great universal laws. If you see the Bible correctly, it's just talking about universal laws, all of which proceed simply and naturally from the initial truth that creation is a process of evolution. Bible mystery and Bible meaning. Bible mystery, Bible meaning. All of which proceeds simply and naturally from the initial truth that creation is a process of evolution. Now here he is talking about evolution. Remember the argument? Creation versus evolution, creation versus evolution, creation. Remember that? No, God created the universe. No. God didn't create it. It evolved. This is science. It's both. It's both. It's involution, getting involved, and it's evolution. There we go. Candace, it's all throughout it. It's all throughout it. So all of which proceeds simply and naturally from the initial truth that creation is a process of evolution. Grant, the evolutionary theory, which every advance in modern science renders clearer, and all the rest follows. For the entire Bible is based upon the principle of evolution. Now, how has anybody ever said that? This dude wrote this 100 years ago. He said the entire Bible is based upon the principle of evolution. Let's keep reading. But the Bible is a statement of universal law of that which obtains in the realm of the invisible as well as that which obtains in the realm of the visible. So the difference is, it's based on evolution, yes. But it's based on evolution and understanding what came before evolution and when evolution started and where evolution has taken us. Invisible and visible. Science only looks at the visible and can't understand it. Exactly. Yeah, believing in both. Now, I will say, Thomas Troward, what he speaks on when it comes to mental science, he educates us. And I recommend and I implore you to try to do this. Try to go beyond belief and try to go into understanding. Totally understand it so you don't need belief. This is what this does. I implore you to try this. Okay, so here we go. Let's read it. It says it renders clear the based on the principle of evolution. All right, so, but the Bible is a statement of universal law of that which obtains in the realm of the invisible as well as that which obtains in the realm of the visible. And therefore, it deals with facts of a transcendental nature as well as those on the physical plane. And accordingly, it contemplates an earlier process anterior or outside of evolution. See, he's breaking it down. Let me put that in regular language terms. He's saying, although the Bible is based on evolution, it also deals with facts of a transcendental nature, meaning outside of the physical. It's dealing with laws that go outside of the physical domain. So for scientists who study the physical domain, they can't understand it. It goes into the place scientists who only live on what they observe physically, which is less than 1% of reality, which is crazy. They go beyond what the physical scientists can understand. It moves into transcendental facts, as well as those on the physical plane. And accordingly, it contemplates an earlier process before evolution started. What happened before the Big Bang? The process, namely, of involution. So write this word down. Involution. Involution. Write this word down. Involution. Involution. Definition. Okay? Here goes the involution. Refers to the descent of spirit into matter, or the process of divine intelligence entering form. Involution. Excuse me. Involution refers to the process of divine intelligence entering form. Involution. Yes. Keep that word in your lexicon, in your word bank. Thank you. The process named involution, the passing of spirit into form as antecedent to passing to a form into consciousness. If we bear this in mind, it will throw light on many passages which must remain wrapped in impenetrable obscurity until we know something of the psychic principles to which they refer. Stuff is going to be confusing until we understand these laws, is what he's saying. The fact that the Bible always contemplates evolution as necessarily preceded by involution should never be lost sight of. Meaning, if you forget that the Bible understands evolution but contemplates involution before evolution, you will miss the whole Bible. The Bible is not discounting science, which is what a lot of spiritualists talk about. They discount the sciences and they say delulu. But the truth is that there's an involving process. Spirit is involving itself. There's a process of spirit involving itself in the physical that needs to be studied. The Bible studies that. Expansion, contraction. It would be a contraction, expansion. That would be the order. Yes, so both, yes. The answer is yes. But just to keep the order correct, it would be a contraction and then expansion. Because what's happening is the spirit, which is infinite, contracts itself. Boom. And then a big bang happens. Boom. Expansion. So before there was anything, there was no thing in the universe. Here goes it. It was all infinite. But it contracted into a single point. And that single point is the big bang in the physical. Boom. Big bang happens and all expansion happened after that. Isn't it a constant cycle? Yeah, involution and evolution. I don't know. I think so. That's my best answer. I think so. It seems to be. That's my best answer. But I can't say that I know for sure. See, I'm not going to tell y'all stuff I don't know. Stuff I'm still contemplating. And I'm going to find the answers. But I'm still contemplating it. So, let's read this. The fact that the Bible always contemplates evolution as necessarily preceded by involution should never be lost sight of. And therefore, much of the Bible requires to be read as referring to the involutionary process taking place upon the psychic plane. So most of the, like breathing out. Yes, it's like breathing out first. It's so funny. It's both. The Kabbalah explained it the best. The Tree of Life explained it the best, but I don't have the images out. But yes, it's like breathing in and out. That's why even the Bhagavad Gita, a lot of the Vedas, and even the Bible, the Hebrew translations, life is breath. The breath is known as the spirit because it's breathing into. It actually says it breathes the breath of life into man. So which means spirit involves himself so totally in who we are that we become, that it becomes man. So we are actually that God that involved itself as a man, and we are literally God walking as man, forgetting we're God. But we're remembering again. That's expansion. Ain't that crazy, y'all? So let me highlight this one more time. The fact that the Bible always contemplates evolution as necessarily preceded by involution should never be lost sight of. He said it's always speaking from what's happening on the invisible plane. But involution and evolution are not opposed to one another. They are only the earlier and later stages of the same process. This is what mental science does. It marries the two. Spirituality, in just the new age sense, is not accurate. It's delusional. Because what they do is they go off into Pluto or go off into the nebulous and go off into the feel only place, not realizing that in order for it to be real needs to and is involving itself in the physical. It has to. That's the nature of spirit. It involves itself. So if you are wanting to retreat from society and remove yourself, is that in harmony with nature? Maybe for a time, but there comes a time when involution has to happen, meaning you are really spirit. If you're really spiritual, here's what you're doing. You are mimicking God. Because what happens is involution. You come back into society and you help those around you evolve. That's what we're doing in the mastermind in 365. That's what we're doing. Is I am doing my job to involve myself or involve the spirit to expand the people in the group. And I'm just an open vessel for doing that. I'm being breathed or lived. Let's say that. So they're not opposed to one another. They are the latter and earlier stages of the same process. Exactly. Law of polarity, law of rhythm. Erica, you on point. You love the group. I'm telling you. So these two fundamental truths that under whatever varieties of form, the spirit is only one. Listen to this. These two fundamental truths. Let me read a little. Let me make sure I read the whole thing. Oh, I didn't finish reading this. Let me read this. The perpetual urging onward of spirit for self-expression in infinite varieties of form. And therefore, the grand foundation on which the whole Bible system is built up is that spirit, which is thus continually passing into manifestation, is always the same spirit. In other words, it's only one. So first thing he's saying is that spirit involves itself in the physical in a variety of forms. Here I am, and there you are. There you are, here I am. We're all in this different spots, right? But it's the same spirit involving itself in animating you, and animating me, and animating everything. So we're actually the same. This is how we're the same. Everybody say unity, unity. Yes, unity, but how? If it's true, there's a way in which it is true. So let's find a way instead of just believing. Believing is a low level of thinking. It's a low level of spiritual thinking. It's the first level. It's elementary. It's like grade school. You have to graduate from just believing to understanding. Take your levels up. This is explaining it. The same spirit. Why are we different? Because the question is, why am I over here and you over there if we one? Really ask that question. Well, the reason why is because spirit involves itself in physical in many varieties. So the only thing that varies is the body and the things that are created that spirit involves itself in. So I'm different than you, is different from a tree, is different from my dog. But why is that? Why are we one? How are we one? Because the same exact spirit that I am, when I say I am, is the same spirit when you say I am. And it's the same spirit when a tree says I am. And the name of this spirit is I am. That's how we're one. We're only one in I amness. That's why it's God's name in the Bible. Because that's where we are all one. That's all we are is I am. But we express ourselves here. Ain't that so beautiful? If you want to connect with the world, close your eyes, go inside and just be, and you are all of us. We are one. We are the totality. We're not even a piece. We are the totality at the most fundamental level. At a surface level, we're a piece. So, law of polarity. Everything that's true is untrue. So it's true that we all just pieces of each other. Absolutely, we all just pieces of each other. And at a deeper level, what are we? At a deeper level, we aren't even pieces. It's just one. having experiences through multiple different places. Yours just so happen to be happening in that location that you in looking from. Ain't that interesting? That's the law of one, or all is mind. Or really all is one mind. Ain't that crazy? We are one. That's the reason why when I think something, you can feel it. Or I feel something towards you, you can feel it. Because it's only one that's feeling it. You just happen to feel it in a different location. Ain't that crazy? I think that's the most beautiful thing. That's how we one. Now, when you feel into that oneness, now it's not just like, I want to feel connected. Yeah, but you actually are looking and seeing how this one is the one. Now you know it. It gives it more power. Do that. Your meditation is going to amplify after you hear this. Your meditations are going to go up after you hear this. And understand it. Because you can't help but to realize it while you're going in your meditation. When you close your eyes and go in, now you know I am is the only one. The body that I'm living in right now is just a point of view. But I am all there is. I'm also all the other ones, and all the trees, and all the planets, and all the everythings. I'm all space. I'm all energy. I'm all there is. Having an experience through this individual. You feel me? Put her on. These two fundamental truths, that under whatever varieties of form the spirit is only one, and the creation of all forms, and consequently of the whole world of conscious relations, is the result of spirit's one mode of action, which is thought. Y'all hearing it? All right, test, pop quiz. What is spirit's one mode of action? Thought. How do you know you are spirit? How do you know you are spirit? Pop quiz. How do you know you are spirit? It goes with the first one. That's the tip. All right, let's go back to the first question. What's the mode of action of spirit? What's the one mode of action of spirit? Let's go back to it. Look, it's easy. Somebody just said it. Who said it? Go look at Arya. Shout out to Arya. Just said it. What's the one mode of action? Thought. How do you know if you are a spirit? Then, if the one mode of action of spirit is thought, how do you know you spirit? Because I think. Because I think. Let's go back. If spirit's one mode of action is thought, how do you know if you're a spirit? Because you can think. If you can think, you must be who? You must be, if you can think, and the one mode of action, you must be, exactly, you must be the I am. You must be spirit. If you can think, you must be spirit. Because the only mode of action spirit has is thought. So you must be spirit. Now, is spirit two or one? Is spirit two or is it one? It's only one. So are we one? Are we one? Are we unified? Yes. Anytime something is true, remember this. There is a way it is true. Find it. Now, if somebody say, how are we one? Now you know. Rather they can understand it or not, you know. Because the only mode of action spirit has is thought. I think, therefore I'm spirit. Spirit is only one, and all of us are thinking, meaning there's only one thinker. And that thinker's name is I am. And I am that I am. So we must be one. Through that logic. Through that line of thinking. So now, can your thoughts affect others? Are there even others? No. So is your thought affecting everything at once? If there's only one thinker, we are all that thinker, and I think thoughts. Am I affecting everything? I'm affecting everything with my thought. But what if you don't know that? You will use that power ignorantly. You will use that power ignorantly. Yeah, Alicia over here hooping. You'll use that power in ignorance. That means you will misuse it. You're going to use it to think about all of the negative, all of the anxiety, how you worth nothing. Why would you think that? If your thought is all creative and it bounces back off of the whole universe and comes back to you, why would you think that? Because we're ignorant. We don't believe it. See, how do you know if you believe this? You'll change your thoughts. Only way if somebody say, I believe in my mind, why don't you change it? If you believe your mind create reality, why don't you change it? Why do you keep thinking that way then? You know all this spirituality, right? Well, how come you keep thinking that way? If you know that thoughts create reality. Explain that. Actions speak louder than words. As a matter of fact, your actions speak so loud, I can't even hear what you're saying. I watch the feet. I listen when people say stuff out of their mouth, accidentally, I pay attention. What you slip up and say is what you actually think. So I know what you create. Even jokes. I listen to how people joke. Some people joke in a very self-deprecating way. Some people joke about the end of the world and negatives. I'm not joking. Y'all can joke. God does not recognize jokes. God recognizes words and beliefs and energies. I'm not joking with you. I'll let you joke. I ain't joining in. Not like that. People be joking about being broke all on TikTok. I ain't joking with y'all. I'm not joking with y'all. I'm not joking with you. You could joke about being lonely and being in this distraught situation because everybody laughing. I don't need your approval. I'm not joking. I'm not laughing with you. Not interested. I don't care how I look to you. I ain't joking like that. I'm going to speak life into my children, life into myself, life into my girl, life into my family, life into my future. I'm speaking life, bro. So whatever you joking about, I'll let you. I'm not judging, but I know what you're doing and you don't know. You are out of ignorance, creating your reality. You don't even know it. Accidentally joking. You telling on yourself. Look, I watch this. This happening in the chat all the time. In the chat, people will literally say all of their thoughts. They will literally tell on themselves about how they're thinking. All the negatives, all the funny negatives. They know everything. And all of the negatives that they say, you see them. And then they say, no, I'm positive. No, I know this stuff already. You know this stuff already? You know this stuff already. Jax, you heard. You heard? Tell her. Nah. You understand that? You get that? All right. So look. Bible, which the Bible expresses in its two grand statements. So the Bible explains two things. It says, God is one. God is one. That's first. Why is it saying that? Because we remember that the spirit that we're talking about, is one spirit. It's only one I amness. There's only one thinker. Remember that statement. It's only one thinker. That's why the commandment in the Bible, in the New Testament, is two statements. God is one. That's why it's there. If something is true, it's a way it's true. Okay, so which way is God one? Well, the way God is one is because spirit is one. There's only one thinker, and therefore all comes from that one thinker, spirit. So therefore all is one. That's how it's true. You see what I'm saying? All is true, or God is one. And that man is made in the image and likeness of God. What's that mean? Okay, it's only one thinker, and we are that thinker in man form, in human form. We are that one thinker in human form. So there's only one God. That's number one. Number two is we are made in the likeness and image of that one. Hey, y'all be on it though. Y'all better. I told y'all, Alicia the bear. Y'all better get off that bear, man. I'm telling you. Y'all better get off that bear. Y'all gonna get attacked by she the bear, but the other ones are going to, man, there's gonna be tigers in here. I can't even stop it. Jack said, hey, yo. It was super quick. Look, I love y'all. By the way, Bible mystery, Bible meaning. We only read, you know how many pages we read? 1/2. It's not, this is the whole book. We ain't even done with that. It's so much more to go through. But this is the game, y'all. Thomas Troward is the king of mental science. He's the king of the mind. When I've read so many books, y'all. 1.5 pages, yeah. That's why you don't need to read books. Books like this, I read these very slowly. This is how I read it, over an hour. If I do this by myself, I'll read a paragraph and I'll go outside and I'll just be talking to myself out loud, teaching myself this stuff. Like spirit, okay, so the only mode of spirit is thought. I'm thinking. Okay, so that means that I'm spirit because I'm thinking. All right. So everybody else thinking too, and the spirit is one, so that means that it's the same thinker in everybody, but we show up differently. Okay, so the only difference is how spirits show up and what locations show up in, but it's the same spirit everywhere, so we really want. Then I go inside and I'm like, let me feel this to be true. Let me see. And I go inside and I'm like, wow, It's true. When you go in and you just go within, you go past the veil of an individuality and you penetrate toward oneness. You go, there's no words for it, but you come out of that experience like, it's true. You know it's true. It's like, it's true. We all won. I felt everybody. And you can too. How do I know you can? Because we're the same. I know you can feel everybody. If you go inside, because I did it. And I know we won. So anything I can do, you can do because I'm not different than you. That's how I know.
Jackson, do you have a book ready to begin with?
A book to start with. Oh my God. Book to start with. Let me see. I'll send you some in the group. I'll send you some in the group. I'll send you some in the group. I'll send you one. All right, y'all. I'm hopping off here. I love y'all. We're going to come on here and talk about this on a regular basis. This is what I'm going to be on. We're doing a series on this. Bible Mystery, Bible Meaning. Thomas Troller. Good day to you, brother. I love y'all. You're welcome.